Hello and welcome to Cashmatics. This is the first in a series of lessons designed to teach and consolidate the rules for powers and indices. And in this tutorial we're going to cover three of the most basic rules you need to know irregardless of the paper you're going to sit. So whether you're doing the foundation or the higher, you will need to know these three rules. So grab yourself some paper and a pen and let's get started. The first of the three rules is how to multiply powers of the same number. So let's say we have a squared multiplied by a to the power 3. Now what you've got to understand is that the a squared means a times a, and the a cubed means a times a times a. So that's that part, and that's that part. And as you can see, a's been multiplied together 5 times, so that would be a to the power 5. So in the case of multiplying of the powers of the same number, all you need to do is add the powers. Now when it comes to dividing powers of the same number, so for example if I had a to the power 6 divided by a to the power 2, now that would be the same as me writing a times a times a times a times a 6 times, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all divided by a multiplied by a. And what we have here is the a's on the top and a's on the bottom, which can cancel out. So I've got 2 on the bottom, which can cancel out with 2 of them from the top, leaving me with just a to the power 4 on the top. Now the next rule is raising one power to another. And in this case here, what you do, so let's say for example you have a squared all cubed. That actually means a squared times a squared times a squared. So that would be a multiplied by a times a again, multiplied by a times a again. So that comes from that one, that comes from that one, and that comes from that one. And as you can see, you're multiplying a together 6 times. That would be a to the power 6. So in this case, what you're doing is we're multiplying the powers. So we multiply the powers. Okay. Oh, and I forgot to mention in this one we subtract the powers. Okay, so 6 take away 2 is 4. That's why that's a to the power 4. But with this one here, we've got to be careful about the order. So let's say we had a to the power 4 divided by a to the power 10. I need to subtract them in the order they're being divided in. So this would be 4 take away 10, which is a to the power minus 6. Okay, so just to summarize, if you're multiplying powers of the same number, you would add the powers. If you're dividing powers of the same number, you need to subtract the powers, but in the same order that you're dividing in. And if you're raising one power to another, you multiply the powers. So I'm just going to go through a few more examples. So for example, let's say we had b cubed multiplied by b to the power 10. Now I've got to be careful here. I know I need to add the powers because I'm multiplying powers of the same number. So we've got b, b, and b. But I've got 3 here. And there's actually a 1 here, which a lot of people miss. So if you see a b on its own, put the power in, or whatever letter it is, just put the power in, and make sure you don't miss it out. So 3 plus 1 plus 10, and that would be b to the power 14. Let's say here we have c to the power 5 divided by c squared. That would be c to the power 5 divided by c squared, so 5 take away 2, which is 3, so c to the power 3. And if I had something like d to the power 7 divided by d to the power 10, I need to do 7 take away 10, which is minus 3, so that would be d to the power minus 3. And raising one power to another, imagine I had something like a to the power 5 all raised to the power 6. I would multiply the powers to give me a to the power 30. And if I had something like b to the power minus 11, let's say, all squared, I need to do minus 11 times 2. That would be b to the power minus 22. Now in a later video I'll explain what these negative indices actually mean, so don't worry about what they mean for now, just make sure you can get the right index. Right, so here's some questions for you. The rules have been summarized here on the left, so I'll just go over what they mean in algebraic terms. So a to the power m multiplied by a to the power n is a to the power m plus n, so we can see we're adding the powers, so m plus n. For the division, we need to subtract the powers, and as you can see, they're subtracted in the same order that the powers are written in. And for the multiplication, so for raising one power to another, we multiply the powers. So m multiplied by n is what we've got over here. So I've got some questions up here for you. Pause the video, and I'll reveal the answers in about 3 seconds. So I'm just about to reveal the answers. So pause the video now if you like. So I'm about to reveal the answers. 3, 2, 1. And there they are. Okay, so compare those to your answers. If you've made a lot of mistakes, you need to go back and check your notes and make sure you've understood all the points clearly. Right, moving on then. I've got 6 questions over here. Now these look a lot more complicated than the ones we had before, but we can still apply some of the basic rules. So when it comes to the indices, we still apply the same rules, but I just need to be careful about what I do with these numbers. Now this here is essentially 3 multiplied by a squared multiplied by 4 multiplied by a cubed. And because all the terms are multiplied together, it doesn't matter what order they're multiplied in. So if I rewrite them as 3 multiplied by 4 times a squared times a cubed. So the 3 times 4 gives me 12, and the a squared times a cubed gives me a to the power 5. Okay, so all you've got to remember is the coefficients, and those are the numbers in front of the a squared or a cubed, you multiply those. We're still multiplying a squared by a cubed, but we need to remember we need to add the powers in that case. And the mistake that a lot of people make is they'll do 3 times 4 but also 2 times 3. Or they might do 2 plus 3 correctly and then do 3 plus 4. Okay, or any other combination which is incorrect. So you've got to make sure you're paying attention and take your time and make sure you do the right thing with the numbers and the right thing with the powers. Over here we've got a division. So what I tend to do is I tend to draw a line where my division is going to be, and I simplify the fraction first. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. Okay, so it's 3 on the top, not a 3 on the bottom, because that would make it a third. And then a to the power 14 over a cubed, and then I simplify it once more, leaving the 3 as it is. And what I do is I look to see how many a's there are on the bottom compared to the top. So I've got 14 on the top and 3 on the bottom, which means the 3 on the bottom will cancel out the 3 from the top, leaving me with 11 on the top. So that would be 3a to the power 11. And the only thing left on the denominator is actually a 1, because 12 over 4 is 3 over 1. Okay, so I could write that as 1a cubed. But because I've only got 1 left on the denominator, we don't need to include it. So 3a to the power 11 is all we need to write. Now let's have a look at this one over here. Now what I would do here is I would take my time and make sure I do the top first and then the bottom. So let's do the top in the same way as we did in the first example. So 3 multiplied by 5 is 15. A to the power 5 times a to the power 7. Now remember I need to add the powers. That would be a to the power 12. Divided by 6 times 4, which is 24. A squared times a cubed. Remember add the powers again. That's a to the power 5. And then I'd simplify the fraction. Now 15 over 24, I can divide them both by 3 to give me 5/8. And the top has got a to the power 12, and the bottom's got a to the power 5. So 5 of these will cancel out 5 of these, leaving me with 7 of them at the top. Okay, so a to the power 7. And that's it. That's done. Let's have a look at this one over here. I've got 40 over 28 as my fraction, and a to the power 7 over a to the power 10. Now pay close attention to this one. 40 over 28. Now I can divide them both by 4. So that gives me 10 over 7. Now look at the power of a. There's actually more on the bottom than there on the top, and there's 3 more on the bottom compared to the top. So I'd say a to the power 3 on the bottom. Okay, so you have to decide whether they end up on the bottom of the fraction or on the top. Let's look at this one here. 3 over 15. That simplifies to 1/5. And let's see where the a's end up. So I've got more a's on the top than I have on the bottom. There's 9 more on the top compared to the bottom. So that would be a to the power 9. But because I've got 1a to the power 9, I just need to write a to the power 9. Don't need the 1 on the top. It's unnecessary. And the 5 on the bottom. And this last one over here, this is a bit more complicated. So let's just take our time. So keeping the first term as it is, 24a squared, multiplied by this one here. So because this is one power raised to another, I need to multiply the powers. So that would be a to the power 10 divided by 16a to the power 7. Okay, let's simplify the top as much as we can. That would be 24 a to the power 12 over 16a to the power 7. And all I'm going to do now is simplify the fraction and cancel out the a's where I can. So 24 over 16, I can divide them both by 8 to give me 3 over 2. And there's 5 more a's on the top compared to the bottom. So that would be a to the power 5. So it's 3a to the power 5 all over 2. Now, if I've gone through that a little bit quickly, just rewind it a little bit, make some notes, pause between examples if you need to, make some notes, make sure you clearly understand where everything's come from, and then you can progress to the next part where we're going to do some questions. So here's some questions for you to try. The first lot should be fairly straightforward, but please take care with them. And the last two might take you a bit more time. But take your time, there's no rush whatsoever. I've got the full solutions, which will be displayed shortly. But pause the video, give it a go, and let's see how you get on. But just one word of warning, when you get to question B, I know I said it was simple, but the same rule applies whether you've got 3 terms or 4 terms or 5 terms. It doesn't matter. You multiply the numbers and they add the powers. Okay, so give those a go. Pause the video and I'll reveal the answers shortly. Okay, so I'm about to reveal the answers in 3, 2, 1. There you go. Right, so check those against your answers and see how you did. And if you've made some big mistakes, go back to the examples where I've explained things in a bit more detail and then have another go. Right, so that's it for this video. Those are the basic rules of indices. In the next one, we'll be looking at some more advanced rules, and I hope you'll join me for those. And yep, I'll see you next time. Goodbye for now.